guys, I'm Country Gal Baba here on Crooked Sea Acres, and on this episode of Modern Day Homesteading in Arizona, we are starting the floor for the new house. This is exciting, and I'm gonna walk you through every step of it. So there's the finished foundation. We are going to be building the floor today. Now I'm going to work on leveling out some of these little spots and raking these rocks off to the side. That way we have a decent clean crawl space for when Billy has to get under here and do plumbing later. So Bobby helped me shovel and rake. That is much better, and it's mostly under this part right here is where we're gonna make sure it's nice and clean, just so it's easier when Billy's under there doing plumbing. So by code, we have to put this vapor barrier on, which goes underneath the pressure treated wood for the start of the floor. The bolter sunk into the concrete when it was still wet, obviously. Holes are drilled. Pressure treated wood is put down. Now Bobby's putting bolts to secure it. Vapor barrier is down, and the pressure treated wood as well. Time to go on to the next step. These are 4x12 support beams for the middle support on the house. So that's a 20-foot piece, and it just had to be cut just enough so it could sit inside the framework. The length of the house is 50 feet long, so we have two 20-footers and a 10-footer for that center support. But of course, it's got to be just that little bit shorter so it fits inside the framework that we're doing for the floor. The guys are finishing up putting the framework on the outside for the floor. I am putting in these brackets. They've already measured exactly where it needs to go. So I'm just starting off with a couple of screws because that makes it easier for one person to do. Then we're gonna go through and nail for the rest of the holes. In the end of the 2x12s on the outside, while Bobby and I are screwing to the brackets, screwing the brackets in to the 2x12s on the inside. We're almost done. Now it just has to be inspected. We passed inspection. But before we put on the OSB, which is the decking for the floor, we're gonna put in a couple of extra supports where we just simply wanna put them because we're gonna have some heavy things in there. In the living room, we'll be laying down some brick for our wood burning stove area. We will have a massive tub in the master bath. And in the kitchen, we're gonna have our big upright freezer right next to the refrigerator. So we just feel better having that extra support. For every board, Billy's measuring to make sure that everything is centered at 4 foot and 8 foot. These are 4 foot by 8 foot sheets of plywood. We need to make sure that all the seams line up, that all the ends are over the floor joists just right, so everything fits. So what I've been doing is we have to have 6 nails in each line here. As each piece of plywood is being laid down, I'm making the pencil marks with the straight edge to line up with the floor joist. That way, as we're going, I can put in the proper amount of nails. Sometimes the boards are bowed like this. So Billy's got to get down in there and move it just a little bit so it'll be centered on for the plywood that we're putting down. Coming along. We are over half done. It's just 2 of us today working. Took us about 2.5 hours to do this so far. The decking for the floor is done. It took about 5 hours of active working with just Billy and I. We did have to take breaks, of course, because today it was in the high 80s. So, and we don't have any shade trees over the build site. Before we get started this morning, I just wanted to show you the beautiful view from the height of the floor of the house. It's just that much higher. It's just so pretty all the way around. So this is what we've been doing. Putting the lumber on the car trailer right next to the build site after we take it out of the storage. It keeps it nice and close, there's less walking, and it makes a fantastic work table. While Billy was assembling the walls, I was cutting all the small pieces for headers and to block above and below windows. Of course, the doors. A couple more. He got started on the assembly of the other long wall. That is what you're supposed to do first. And I was also cutting more small boards over in the shade and then bringing them over with the wheelbarrow to make things just a little bit easier. Had some friends come out. Brad, I gotta start over. Okay. Had some friends come over, helped us pick up the walls. These are 50-foot walls. Yes, Bobby said this is our Amish barn raising. So it was very, very, very heavy. Yay! Billy built more walls today, but this one wall is just a little too big. So we're gonna help him pick it up. Billy started standing up the OSB on the exterior. Ashley was ahead of me making the lines so I could have the nails exactly where they needed to be. 16 on center. Coming along. Two sides done so far. We're gonna start on that far side because it's shaded right now, then work on this back side while the sun is in the front of the house because it's hot today.
Fuck, it's empty.
Like a professional. That was awesome. I'm thoroughly impressed. We're taking a little bit of a break, and then I'm gonna finish nailing up nails on this long back wall. And Ashley is going to use the Sawzall to cut out the boards for the windows and doors. We are required to put 11 nails in the length of the 8-foot stretch of OSB. On the outside, we're doing 15-30 seconds, which is about a ½ inch. Putting up the hurricane straps. Today we're putting up the trusses. And on the outside here, you can see we built a just a support on the outside that is necessary to help hold that first truss that we're gonna put up there so it can sit still for us while we're putting up the rest until we can anchor it to others. We got the crane out here today. We're gonna put up the trusses. This is exciting because this is a big giant truck. So Ashley's in charge of attaching the crane at the top of the truss. I have a rope tied here. It's windy, so I have to guide this thing so it's not swinging like crazy. It's like flying a massive kite. It's intense. This is so much fun. Things connected. So Ashley's giving instructions on the proper hand movements for up, down, right, left, stop, so she can hook this up. She's doing so good, it's fun. Quite a day to learn how to handle things with the crane since it's so windy. Taking it easy, taking a break. They're having because the wind's making the trusses like come this way. They're up there putting in some additional supports because everything's getting crooked now. You can see how the wind is just wanting to push everything over. So they're trying to get that figured out before we put up more trusses. So that's it for the vaulted trusses over the living room and kitchen area. We have this one gable end truss. We're gonna move out of the way and get to some regular trusses and keep going. Ashley's going to cancel her gym membership. So they're installing the gable end in just the right place because that will be the end wall for that vaulted ceiling in the living room kitchen area. As I had the rope tied to this one walking along, the wind was catching that so much more because of all the extra boards that are on it. I almost experienced parasailing. It was quite fun. The crane operator's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm good." That was fun. Last truss. All done. This was fun. The wind is blowing so much, it broke one of the original braces. We literally held this doubled up 2x4 while Billy backed up his Jeep so we could push the wall back over in place and braced it plenty. As windy as it was yesterday, it was way too difficult for Billy to make sure that these trusses were exactly 24 inches on center as they should be. He was up in the middle, as you may have seen in that one video, while we had James and Bobby on the ends to secure the trusses. So he didn't have a lot of help. So today, since it's not windy, we're gonna remove some of these hodgepodge boards that were put up just to secure it, to keep it from falling down in the wind. And it'll be braced better like it should be. After we put up the fascia board, we went ahead and temporarily secured the end here with this angled piece of wood, just because we were done for the day. We didn't want the end piece to warp at all with being hit by the sun, knowing we weren't gonna be out here till the next weekend. So we have the scaffolding set up. We have another set on the other side as well. We need to finish putting up the OSB on the gable ends, and then we'll cut it off along the edges. Then my husband will be notching out where 2x6s will come out for the eave that comes out to at the end of the house, each end of the house. So we have scaffolding set up. This side of the house is really tall because of just the lay of the land. So this is really tall back here. We borrowed this set of scaffolding from a friend. It's very tall and narrow, which is kind of sketchy. So Billy took a large tie-down strap and we strapped it to the house to make sure it was secure. So I'll show you. We had to put 2x12s here to space. That way we have enough room to get the OSB in where we need it for the gable ends. boards. Billy was notching out for where the supports need to go for the overhang for the eave on the gable end of the house. Now he's going to be putting up those boards so then afterward we can put OSB on the roof. So as you can see, Billy put the boards sticking out to support the eave for the gable end. The cool thing is that flat piece of wood, that's pretty standard. This not quite vertical piece that he added, up there he's got two of them. He did that because he just would feel better supporting it a little bit more because of the high winds we get out here. That one day we were putting up the trusses, you know, that things were just blowing like crazy. And even our neighbors have said, well, I hope you're not gonna put up shingles. I hope you're doing a sheet metal roof because of all the high winds out here. We've already heard stories about people losing their shingles. So we're gonna do what we can to make this house as solid as possible. Now the OSB and fascia board is complete. You'll see under here that the OSB is not all the way up to the top, and that's okay. We just had to leave some space available so when we have the sheet and framing inspection that they can see the hurricane straps that we put those in properly. The OSB and fascia board on the outside of the house was finished by a couple of guys that we chose to hire simply because, I'm not gonna lie, my husband was just exhausted. He works all week long and then we come out here, well, I do too. He has a physically demanding job. So for him to work overtime every week and come out here, like, it's a lot. So he chose to hire some guys he knows to finish the OSB and fascia board, which was actually really good anyways because our roof is really steep with having vaulted ceilings. So those two guys, they did it in a day. It would have taken us probably 3 days to do. So that's all. We're actually glad that we chose to do that because we found out something interesting about code that we just didn't know, and it led us to a decision that we had to make for something different that we're doing with the house is actually better. Let me show you. I'm looking up to the very top here. I'm inside the house, and you see how there's that gap? Well, when we came out after the guys got finished, we're like, why'd they leave a gap? What the heck? So Billy calls them and talks to him. And what turns out, and it's just, you know, like maybe 2 inches on the outside or 2 inches, you know, on either side. It's really small. He said that you can't have any strips of OSB less than 10 inches according to code. And so what we'll have to do is put, I forget what it's called, but basically there's gonna be a vent at the top of the house rather than having the square vents at each end of the house. And so that's something that when we have, we're gonna have K-Supply come out and install sheet metal roof for us, and that's something that they will install, and we'll do more video on that later. So I tell you what, it looks so cool having all that OSB fit up there. It's starting to look more like a real house. Yes, it is super, super windy today. But it's just so awesome. We're so happy. So that'll be it for this portion of modern day homesteading in Arizona. Coming up, we're gonna be building the porches, wrapping the outside, installing windows, doing some painting. The guys who did the OSB for us, they're gonna come and do the siding because that's so time consuming. That would take us, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weekends to do. That's crazy. So we're gonna hire someone to do it during the week so we can still do our weekend projects. So yeah, it's exciting. Can't wait to show you. See you next time on Modern Day Homesteading in Arizona.